Generation 1 is nowadays known as the generation that Game Freak never seems to forget just because of how much they shove it into each generation. Well, in Gen 6, we got Kanto Megas, and then Gen 7, we got only low-on forms for the Kanto Pokemon, which seems a little bit strange, but you can probably just go on a whole tangent with that in a different video, and this isn't the video for that. But what I do want to talk about is just how good the Generation 1 games were, that being Red, Blue, Yellow, and the remakes on the Game Boy Advance. And I'm not really gonna talk about Let's Go just because I feel like those games are vastly different in the mechanics and just a bunch of other features. So in this case, I'll just mostly be going over how the experience is in the original games and the remakes. And I think I'll mostly draw on the remakes just because I do feel that those are basically the definitive editions. Like, not much has changed other than like a few events and all the new features that were added in Generation 3. So, that's basically what I'm going to head for. But now let's actually get into the video. The first thing I do like about Generation 1 has to be that I feel that these designs of Pokemon have to be some of the best designs in the series. I mostly say this just because a lot of them do feel natural and actually feel like actual animals on most part, because I do know that Pokemon like Magnemite and Voltorb exist, but I feel even for those cases, the man-made Pokemon still feel like livable creatures in this case, and I do feel like it makes the region somewhat memorable because again, the Pokemon inhabiting it are somewhat realistic. Then there's the region itself, and I still do think that exploring the region is pretty fun. It has some cool places to visit, and the exploration that is in the game is somewhat fun because you can go see some cool stuff like the power plant going all the way to Mount Ember to see like where wall traces and just a bunch of other small things I really do like about the region. Then there's also the Game Boy Advance remakes, and frankly I do think this is the best version of the Generation 1 games. These add a lot of mechanics that's been in the series for a long time other than the physical special split, but still, other than that, I feel like the original games, like the one on the Game Boy, is just really lacking in comparison. Along with that, there's also some new places to visit like the Sevi Islands. This also adds to the somewhat barren post-game of the original, since after you defeat the Elite Four, all there really is to do is catch all the Pokemon and go catch Mewtwo. But in the remakes, you do have these Sevi Islands, and you do have some other mini games like the stuff you can use with the wireless adapter, which I do think that makes this region a little bit more cool. Even without the mini games, I just feel again it makes it more alive. Another thing I really do like about these games, like most other Pokemon games, is that it's super replayable. This game has 151 different Pokemon to try out, and you can make different teams pretty much every single time. I know they're all version exclusives, so that does bring it down to 138 Pokemon, but I still do think that it's still a lot of Pokemon that you can go around and test out different setups with them. And that just is the main game. I know in the post game you actually get all the Johto Pokemon, or a good chunk of them, but I still do think that the main story offers up a decent amount of Pokemon that you can try out. Something else you probably didn't expect me to say, but the Gen 1 games kind of open up a bit, and I really do like that. If you didn't know, once you get to Celadon, you can pretty much go off to Saffron City and Fuchsia City to go do the events there. All you really need to do is wake up Snorlax, and once you do that, you can do gyms 4 to 6 in any order you want. And that's pretty nice considering the last two generations kind of force you into doing the next objective at that current moment. Now we move on to the dislikes, and to me the biggest one has to be Team Rocket. They are just really lacking as villains, and they don't really get much backstory on being an evil team, and I'm pretty sure actually scratch that, they get no backstory. You just see them doing evil things, and that's pretty much it. They're an evil gang for the sake of being an evil gang. And I know that isn't really a bad thing because you can take down villains without having much depth to them, but Pokemon has done villain teams a lot better, like Generation 4 and 5, and on some cases Generation 6, just because I feel like Lysander was an interesting villain, just that had his own problems. But even then, you can do an evil team better than what Team Rocket had, just because again, they do random evil events and that's pretty much it. Giovanni isn't really that interesting either, but the plot twist of him being the last Gemini was cool, but again, he doesn't really have much to him, and the later generations did make the evil teams somewhat more interesting. And the same goes with the rival Gary. To me, he just does not feel threatening, and he's not really that good of a rival. He's rude, and that's all his character is, just a rude person. I know the anime had made him like less of that, but again, I'm talking about the games, not the anime. This also goes into the gym Leos, and all you have to do is just go up to them and fight them. That's it. You learn almost nothing about them, and I do feel that the Leo games, or at least especially Generation 5, made them a lot better, but really sucks that in Generation 1 they just don't have anything, or they have very little. The next thing I want to go over, which I felt was a really dumb decision, and frankly I'm surprised it took 4 generations to fix, and that was each type was either considered special or physical. For example, water type moves are always special and normal type moves are always physical. This was a really bad thing just because I feel like it ruined a lot of the balance, and a lot of Pokemon's movesets were kind of just ruined in this case. For example, moves like Outrage and Waterfall were always special no matter what. And did you know that all Ghost type moves were physical and all Dark type moves were special? This again raises up a lot of problems just because, not a lot of Ghost types were physical users back in Generation 1, 2, and 3, and same thing with Dark types, and that just makes it really stupid. For example, Pokemon like Gyarados can't really use Waterfall all that well because it's a special move and his special attack kinda sucks. Same thing with Gengar, and same thing with someone like Zangoose, who can actually use Shadow Ball a lot better than Gengar, which I think is just kinda stupid. Enough ranting about the type matchups, because frankly I could go on that for a little bit longer, but another thing I really did find annoying was that the trainers often use a lot of the same Pokemon, and I know that you could say it's because the dex only has about 151, but even then a lot of the trainers use the same exact Pokemon in their class. Like for example, the Campers will always use Rock and Fighting type Pokemon, the Board Keepers will mostly just use Flying type Pokemon, and for example the Rocket ones will always use stuff like Zubats, Drowsy, and other poison types. To me this really gets annoying just because you don't really see a lot of variety, especially in the random trainer battles, and I felt if they just gave each trainer more than like a few Pokemon, then it would be a lot more interesting. And this kind of goes inside the gyms too, because depending on the gym specialty, they will use those same exact Pokemons, but that's a little bit different just because again, they are the same type, so you expect it. So mostly this goes just to the random trainers you meet in the wild just because they do have a lot of the same Pokemon. Like I felt if you gave the random trainers in the wild stuff like Dugong, Slowpokes, Golducks, and even stuff like Magmals and just a variety of Pokemon to make it a little bit more interesting. But other than that, I still do think this generation is pretty fun to go through despite some of the problems I laid out. I think Pokemon's strengths really lie in the amount of Pokemon you can actually use in the main story, so you can test out different poly sets. So if you want a simple RPG with this amount of customization on your team setup, try these games out, and I do still think that the GBA games are some of the better games just because of how much they add to the original experience. And then there are the Let's Go games, which I still think may be solid, just not for $80 because I don't think they're worth that much. But in the end, you can pick whatever version you want to experience the Kanto region. But before we finish the video, let's go over the likes and dislikes. Likes, good designed Pokemon, really good GBA remakes, lots of different Pokemon to use, and somewhat open in the mid game. Dislikes, uninteresting rival, villain, and leaders, odd move classification, and trainers using very similar Pokemon. But what did you guys like and dislike about Generation 1? Let me know in the comments, and thank you all for watching.